welcome back to Elle the Law Student. So on Instagram I asked you what assumptions you had about the University of Oxford, and I thought that I would answer them in this video, or rather respond to them and let you know if they're true or not. Most of these that I've got are very common assumptions that people have about Oxford, and a lot of them are certainly assumptions I had about Oxford, so thank you so much for sending them in. I've got quite a lot, so I don't think I'll be able to get through them all, but I will try and message people who I don't manage to answer their assumption here. Okay, so the first one is all students have A stars. I'm assuming this means at A level. Absolutely not true. I didn't get all A stars at A level. You just need to get the grade requirements. So for example, for law, the grade requirements are 3 A's, which is like not dissimilar to every other university in the country. So yeah, no, we don't all have A stars. Most students in Oxford come from a financially good background. No, I don't think that's the case. I don't have the actual statistics, but in my experience that's not the case. Oxford's actually really good if you don't come from a household that has a really large income, because there's loads of bursaries and scholarships and college funding and that sort of thing available that you might not get at other universities. However, I'm not going to lie, diversity I believe is still a problem at Oxford University, which is why I've made this YouTube channel, because I wanted to encourage a more diverse range of people to apply. It's not entirely representative of the country yet, but I think hopefully it's getting there. Something that people don't realise is that state school students do quite considerably outnumber private school students here. The problem is just that there's still a higher proportion of private school students here than there are private school students in the country, if that makes sense. No, not everybody's from a financially brilliant position, by no means. Most of us are still skint students like everybody else, but I think there still needs to be some work done, but that work is being done. So there's a lot about finance, so I'll kind of skip over those ones because that's, yeah, I've basically answered that. Next one, you need to be super smart to be at Oxford. No, I mean, obviously it's kind of a difficult one. Yes, you need to get good grades, there's no escaping that, but I think there's this idea that an Oxford student is an absolute genius. We never make mistakes, we always understand what's going on, when realistically we're literally just people who really love our subjects. So no, you don't have to be super smart, if by that you mean know all the answers to everything, but we're all generally really interested in our subject, and that's what gives us that drive. So the next one is specifically relating to law, and it says grades and the LNATs aren't enough to confirm your place. No, that's true. So the way that the application system works is you do your general UCAS application, so you've got your personal statement there, then you do an admissions test. In the case of law it's the LNAT, then you are invited to interview, then you have your interview, and then after that you get your decision in January, and then once you've got your A-level results or whatever, then your place is confirmed if you get your grades. So no, your grades themselves and the LNAT aren't the only things taken into consideration, and they are definitely considered, but you've also got your interview, your personal statement. There's just lots of pieces to the puzzle, which can actually be a really brilliant thing, because for example, some people might not do so well in their LNAT, some people might kind of just get really nervous before their interview and not perform so well, and because you've got all of these little things that fit together to make your application, you've kind of got something to fall back on. So the next one is retakes will lessen your chances of getting in, and I don't actually know the answer to this. I was told when applying that they didn't take into account retakes, so if you did 3 A-levels, those 3 A-levels had to be sat in one exam cycle, and obviously if you do a retake then you would probably do it a year later. However, I would be very surprised if there weren't exceptions for that in the case of you know, if you had some kind of extenuating circumstances, yeah, this is something that, depending on your individual circumstances, you would probably have to contact the university about. Next one, I assume that Oxford is one of the most prestigious universities in the world. Yeah, so Oxford is currently the top university in the world. It kind of depends which university ranking you look at. In some of them, we're the top university in the world, but generally always in the top 5, if not top 5, top 10. And it does have a really good name behind it. I'm not going to lie about that. And yeah, I mean, it's University of Oxford. It's one of those places that everybody's heard of. So yeah, in terms of being a prestigious university, yeah. Yeah. And I think the thing that adds to that is, so obviously you've got the admissions process, which is just infamous for being really quite strenuous, and on top of that it's the research that's been done here and the history behind it. So Oxford is the oldest English speaking university in the world, and so just so much has happened here. I've got so many incredible people who were alumni here, and yeah, some not so great ones, but yeah. Okay, so the next one is kind of money related but slightly different. So it says, I assume that you can't save money as a student here. Again, it depends on your circumstances. What I would say is that personally as a student, I don't think I would ever be able to save money. As in, I can kind of put money to one side and I can afford everything, but I'm in no way in a position to put money aside to save for something big, if that makes sense. But I'm in a better position here if I was in a position to save, because my accommodation is a lot cheaper, because I'm mainly paying for the time that I'm here. So the way that most universities work is, I think leases are normally around the 40 weeks a year mark, and sometimes if you're renting like an actual house, it will be for the full year. You don't pay for that when you're here and you're staying in college. You tend to only pay for the time that you're here, so I tend to pay for 24 weeks a year. But in general, if you are able to save as a student anywhere, that's really impressive, so well done. Okay, so the next one is that everybody is insanely clever and on top of their work constantly. So I've kind of covered the insanely clever bit before, but in terms of being on top of their work constantly, absolutely not. You have a lot going on. There's no way to be fully on top of your work, and part of the thing about Oxford is that you are taught to be okay with not having done as much as you would like to have done, if that makes sense. You're gonna have like 2 essays a week, plus lectures, plus tutorials, plus everything else, and you have a big reading list for each of those. There's just no way that you can be on top of things, if by on top of things it's like you have nothing more to do, because that's just, it's a continuous thing really. You've got one deadline after another. But just from a kind of everybody gets their work done point of view, generally that's true. Most of the time I'll get text messages the night before an essay is due asking for help and people panicking because they've not done their work. Yeah, so no, everybody is a bit of a mess most of the time, like most students are. An Oxford student is not this superhuman being. It's just a student. Honestly, I can't tell you how much I want to emphasise that, because this isn't something I realise, but an Oxford student is just a student that happens to be at Oxford University. Like, you know, nobody is ridiculously ahead of the game. Nobody is kind of a super genius that just, you know, knows everything and never gets anything wrong. Like, we're just all students. The next one is, it's very difficult to stand out when applying. I don't know how to answer this one, because I think that's kind of the case at any university. In terms of standing out, like, you know, having a good personal statement, standing out in an interview, that sort of thing, I do have videos on all of those things, so I'll just link those down below, I think. But I don't think that should ever be something that would stop you from applying, because if you have the academic potential and you are driven enough to study it at quite a high intense level, then there really should be nothing stopping you from applying. It's very easy to think, well, I wouldn't stand out because all of these incredible people will be applying, but you can stand out just as much, if not more. And the tutors as well, they're not necessarily looking for somebody who's the loudest, who kind of, you know, shouts about their talent and their passion and everything. They're looking for the people who they can tell genuinely enjoy what they're doing, have that drive, they have the right way of thinking, and so it's not about being the loudest in the room. And the tutors do know what they're doing. Most of them have done loads of interviews before, so they do accept that people show their abilities in different ways. Okay, so the final one that I'll cover today is that there is a very heavy workload and a stressful admissions process. Admissions process, it was kind of stressful, like I'm not gonna lie. Putting your UCAS application in the October, and leading up to that you've probably done about a month of preparation on your personal statement, like anybody has when they're applying to university. Then you've got the LNAT, which, you know, again, really quite stressful to do. It's an exam after all. And then you've got the interview, where you're away from home, and then you've got this big long wait between the interview kind of beginning of December and when you find out, which is like the middle of January. And so yeah, like it is pretty stressful, but I think in, you know, applying to any university is going to be quite stressful, and I really wouldn't let that put you off. It was surprisingly less stressful than I thought it would be, especially the interview. Like, I thought the interview would be my worst nightmare, but my interviews were actually really nice, and I really quite enjoyed my time in Oxford during that interview. There are things in life that are going to be stressful, and a lot of the time those things in life that are stressful are the things that change your life the most. So take from that what you will. In terms of the workload, yes, it's a high workload. Again, I'm just going to be truthful. I did a video about like explaining how Oxford works and the teaching system. If you want a better idea of what the workload is for a first year student, which is what I covered in that video, then go and have a look at that. The flip side of that is, first of all, it's really interesting work, and I feel like it's incredibly rewarding when you then go and have your tutorial with somebody who is potentially the top of their field. So it really does pay off, because you get to have these really intellectual, interesting, insightful discussions with them because you've done all this work. The other side of this is that we only have 3 8-week terms, so they are intense but they are short, and you get through it, and then you tend to have to revise, and you tend to have a bit of work to do over the vacation periods, but you do have that kind of downtime that is significantly longer than at a lot of other universities, so it swings and roundabouts, but I really like it and I wouldn't have it any other way. My camera battery just ran out, so I'll wrap up here. Also realised that throughout this entire thing you've been able to see the reflection of the ring light in my glasses, but there we go. Sorry if that's annoyed anybody. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it was helpful, and I hope I've maybe put your mind at ease or just cleared some things up. I always say this, I want to make this channel as useful as possible, so please, if you do have any suggestions or anything that I can help with by making a video on, then please let me know. I will see you all next time. Bye!